Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm so honored and humbled to be here. Thank you, Bob, Susan, Cassidy, Shannon, and everyone at the Chamber for really bringing this event to life. I'm so excited to be graduating with my fellow climbers and grateful for the opportunity to meet all of tonight's Ignite honorees. Today, we're celebrating the incredible accomplishments of Rochester's most ambitious, impactful, courageous young leaders. So 5 years ago, when I was starting my business, I was 17 years old, freshman at college, and it was October of 2016, a little over 5 years ago. I had all the confidence in the world. I knew I could help businesses with this thing called social media. And so together with my co-founder Luke, who's here in the back, we decided to launch what would become Done Goodwin. We threw a website together. We created a logo that was a triangle with a horizontal arrow through it, because why not? We came up with an extremely cheesy tagline, promote, grow, engage. And just like that, we thought we were off to the races. We went around telling everyone about it, cold calling, emailing, LinkedIn message, door to door, walking into a place, buying something so they'd have to talk to us, and saying, hey, can we manage your social media for you? We were met with a lot of polite and not so polite rejection. 1 month goes by, 2 months go by, 3 months go by, and slowly our confidence is starting to dwindle. It wasn't until 5 months later that we signed our first client, which is Vittorio Menswear and Tuxedo out in Irondequoit. We were pumped. That one client turned into 5, turned into 10, turned into 50, and eventually, before we had even graduated college, we generated $1 million in revenue for our business. So I didn't know it at that time, but those first 5 months taught me one of the most important and age-old lessons of leadership, which is just to see the light at the end of the tunnel. You hear it all the time. All of us can relate to that feeling of hope, excitement, eagerness when you see a situation play out the way you want. And all of us can certainly relate to the feeling of despair, frustration, and embarrassment when things aren't going as planned. So the very first thing we learned in Climb is that in order to successfully lead our teams and our organizations, we must first start with how we lead ourselves. So to me, leading yourself has everything to do with how we view ourselves. How do we view our ability to impact those around us? How do we view our environment and society at large? How do we view our worth? How do we measure our success? In other words, what's our attitude and disposition and the lens in which we see the world? I firmly believe the power of our perspective cannot be understated. So today I just want to talk a little bit about how my perspective has shifted immensely over the past 5 years running a company here in Rochester. I never really thought of myself as a leader. It wasn't until about a year ago that somebody asked me, what's the first time that you felt like a true leader? What is one memory where you really, truly felt like a leader? And I was sort of drawing a blank, and one memory in particular started to come vividly into my mind, and it was actually our ribbon cutting ceremony back in 2019 with the Chamber. We were opening an office in Sibley Square, our first office. We had been working at a co-working space, opening a brand new office. Very excited, also very hectic. So I wanted to make sure everything went smoothly. I had a final that morning in Hamilton, New York, drove directly to the office to set up for the ribbon cutting ceremony, and really had no idea what to expect. I hadn't really even been to too many ribbon cutting ceremonies. So I just, I'd invited close to 100 people, clients, family members, friends. But what I hadn't expected is that my team members had also invited a number of friends, family members. So at the end of the day, I was just so shocked and humbled when I saw not only the closest people in my life there supporting me, but my team members, their friends and family there supporting them. And at the end of the ceremony, I'll never forget one of our team members' dads coming up to me and saying, so what's the next 5 years look like for Done Goodwin? And in that moment, I'm sure he has no recollection, in that moment I felt both empowered and terrified that I truly do have an impact. Being able to support an employee is one of the best feelings you could have, to support their career, provide a living. But you don't necessarily think about that ripple effect. Their families are affected, their friends are affected by that. So one seemingly insignificant exchange can be more impactful than we imagine. This one exchange, and for example, motivates me on occasion when I feel like I'm not doing enough, when I start to think about if my hard work's amounting to anything. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the 6 degrees of separation theory, but it's the idea that any two people on this planet are a maximum of 6 social connections away from each other, whether through a friend of a friend, a friend of a friend of a friend, etc. So me to Kevin Hart, 6 degrees of separation. But when you're leading others, it does branch out further than what you can immediately see. And so I think that was one of the first really critical lessons is, in order to lead ourselves and our teams and our organizations, our perspective must be first that our words and our actions do make an impact, we do make a difference. It's not always so obvious. So do you have a perspective that your leadership matters? Do you understand the impact that each of you has on your teams, families, and communities? Believing this is personally what helps drive me to want to keep going when things get hard. And things will get hard. Adversity is inevitable, but our perspective on adversity and the framework for overcoming adversity can help us each elevate our leadership when times get tough. So a quick story. During my senior year at college, I signed a contract for 20 videos at $15,000 each. The company had this contract in place. We were gearing up to travel all over the world to shoot these videos. It was very exciting for us. I was about to graduate from college. We had a lot of other things going on with the business, but this was a particularly exciting opportunity. We started interviewing an additional videographer to help support this project. It was going to span the next 12 months. And suddenly, it's March of 2020. We're sent home from school. Graduation's postponed. The signed contract is now in question, and long story short, not a single one of those videos was produced, and we're shy about $300,000. And eventually that led to that client we were tapped into that potential. It helped us get published in Forbes, and a lot of good came out of that. But the only choice we had at that time was to determine how we would move forward. So sometimes things happen outside of our control, and the only thing we can control is how we choose to learn and grow. And sometimes things happen that we do control, and we must accept that we can't live up to a life of perfectionism. So recently, Taylor Swift did a keynote at NYU, and I loved this quote. She says, "In your life, you will inevitably misspeak, trust the wrong person, underreact, overreact, hurt the people who didn't deserve it, overthink, not think at all, self-sabotage, create a reality where only your experience exists, ruin perfectly good moments for yourself and others, deny any wrongdoing, not take the steps to make it right, feel guilty, let the guilt eat at you, try to do better next time, rinse and repeat." So these mistakes will cause you to lose things, but losing things doesn't just mean losing. A lot of the time when we lose things, we gain things too. So having a perspective that you can and will get through it, and living life as though everything is rigged in your favor, will give you a framework to hang your hat. And so Andrew Brady shared a quote at the beginning of Climb that stated, "Say no to the yes opportunities to make room for the hell yes opportunities." So sometimes we can do that, but sometimes the universe has a way of doing that for us. In the face of disappointment, gratitude is a chess move to limit dwelling. If you draw energy from gratitude, you'll find that it lasts much longer than energy drawn from insecurity or anger. Of the 7.7 billion people on this planet, you have to think, where would you rank yourself in terms of overall happiness? And the stats are just astounding. 60% of the world's population doesn't have a proper toilet at home. That's 4.5 billion people. 10% of the world lacks basic drinking water, 785 million people. So it's common human nature to look up at those who might rank higher than you, but you don't often think about the billions who have it worse. So it just really humbles me to put things into this perspective. And so something I didn't mention earlier is that our first client, Vittorio Menswear and Tuxedo, that client, we signed a contract for $500 a month. That was the first client of ours. So you might think that's a lot, you might think that's a little. For us, it was truly like striking gold. I was working at the dining hall for my school, for my work-study program, minimum wage, and I don't really like to share this fact, but I quit very soon after that. So it was amazing. We were so grateful to be doing something that we loved. If we had been fixated on the amount or just felt discouraged by it, we could have lost momentum, not delivered the same level of service. So I was just thinking, imagine if you could bring that same level of excitement into any new deal you sign, into any opportunity that comes across in your personal life, when you get a chance to travel, when you get a chance to see a new place, meet new friends, reconnect with old friends, do something you truly love and are passionate about. It's kind of a funny example, but as the Ignite honorees, if you're not chosen as the one, official winner, what will your attitude and perspective be about it? I believe you're all winners, and I'm truly grateful for your service to the city of Rochester and astonished by your achievements that have brought us here today. Last night, I was, just added this part in here last night. I was scrolling on TikTok and saw a pretty clever video. And hate has 4 letters, so does love. Enemies has 7 letters, and so does friends. Cry has 3 letters, and so does joy. And positivity has 10 letters. Negativity has 10 letters, and positivity has 10 as well. So when presented with 2 options, why would you not choose the better, more rewarding side? So as human beings, we're fundamentally scared of change. We avoid the uncomfortable or the unknown. When we first started Done Goodwin, you'd be amazed by the number of businesses who wholeheartedly swore off social media. And now, it's table stakes and they keep getting higher. Embracing the new way of doing things in this post-COVID era is something I believe, again, starts with your perspective. Let's lean in to new ways of learning. Let's lean in to new ways of working. Let's acknowledge we live in a different world than we did a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Last weekend, I was walking around the Thomas Jefferson Memorial in DC, and there's quotes all over the monument, and one of them stood out particularly to me. It was, "I'm not an advocate for frequent changes in laws and constitutions, but laws and institutions must go hand in hand with the progress of the human mind. As that becomes more developed, more enlightened, as new discoveries are made, new truths discovered, and manners and opinions change, with the change of circumstances, institutions must advance also to keep pace with the times. We might as well require a man to wear still the coat which fitted him when a boy, as a civilized society to remain ever under the regime of their barbarous ancestors." There was a national poll of America's 18 to 29-year-olds, which indicated that a majority of young Americans believe our democracy is in trouble or failing. Young people are more worried about this country's future than their parents. While we absolutely cannot ignore what's going on, as young leaders, we have to remember that we have the collective power to bring about positive change. Our voices matter, our votes matter, and cynicism will kill hope and progress for a better world. I really believe your perspective is either your greatest advantage or your greatest demise. I define a leader as anybody who holds themselves accountable for finding the potential of the people and the world around them and has the courage and the guts to develop that potential. So by this definition, leadership takes ownership and responsibility. It requires an undying optimism and seeing the bigger picture, and it demands an immense amount of bravery. Believe me, I lose perspective all the time. But if nothing else, I hope it's apparent and understood, beyond just at a surface level in this room, that each person has made a sizable impact in Rochester and beyond. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Each person in this room has experienced loss, which has surmounted to something they've gained. Everybody here has been dealt an incredible hand of cards in the game of life. And each person in this room has proven they can embrace uncertainty, certainly throughout the pandemic, and still figure out a way to thrive. We cannot change the past, but we can change our perspective about it. In doing so, together, we can change the future. And I'll leave you with this, is that the beautiful thing about perspective is that it's subject to change. It is not static, and the decision to alter it rests on you.